Oh, thank you guys. Thanks for being here. You had a lot of great choices this morning, so I appreciate you spending some time with me. Sometime within the next 4 to 40 months, depending on which year you are at SEM, you're going to be finding yourself spending some time, maybe vacuuming some Cheerios up off of the carpet in the back of church, or jumping on the riding lawnmower and getting that job done, or ordering buckets of Windex. I don't know. Why might you consider that to be an important use of your time? I'll just open it up.
Appearances really do matter.
They do. We want to represent ourselves well to our community, to our congregation, at a level that shows how much we value the message that we're preaching. So that's what we're talking about today, just on the digital side of things. Okay, we're going to talk about how to spend time, money, and volunteer resources in the digital world. We're going to do this with something that I'm calling the stack, and we're going to organize our priorities in that way. Now, there is the obligatory autobiography page. So I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. Pastor Jason was my pastor growing up. So awesome to hear from him this morning. I went to New Ulm for undergrad, came here with my husband. We had our vicar year in Asheville, which was just awesome. And now we're in Cincinnati, the greatest city on earth, of course. So my degree's in education from MLC, but my passion, which is like so cliche and yucky, but my passion has always been for business, marketing, technology. I've always had an interest in that. And so I dove into that about 4 years ago. I worked for a couple small businesses in Cedarburg while we were here. And then the last 2.5 years, I've been working with Academia Cristo and with TEL, doing all of their marketing. And then this past August, I took my own business full time. So that's what I do. This is our paradigm for this entire presentation. More is not better. Better is better. Okay, so the stack, which we'll see in a second, comes out of just observing a lot of organizations over the 4 or 5 years that I've been doing this, do one of 3 things with the internet. First would be nothing. They're not, taking advantage of the internet due to, a lack of knowledge or just feeling overwhelmed, which is completely legitimate. 2, they're doing too much, kind of segmenting their efforts too thin. Nothing is of a really high caliber at that point. Or they're doing the wrong things. They're focused on the wrong things, kind of chasing rabbit holes. They've got their focus diverted from the main thing. And this all kind of leads to the same place. You get very few or poor results, at least not the results you were expecting. And you kind of convince yourself that either it's too much work or it's not working. Kind of throw your hands up in the air and either quit or phone it in some way, shape, or form. So how do we know where to place our efforts, where to start, and what to do well? This is my solution anyway. It's called the stack. So just take a second to kind of take in the structure of it. We'll fill in each one of those boxes with different tasks as we go up. And this is how it works. We'll start at the bottom and we'll work our way up. And until a step is really solid, really secure, we're operating on all cylinders, feel really good about our efforts there, we aren't able to move up till we meet that criteria. Okay? Then once we do, kind of go up a level. Once that's solid, move up a level, so on and so forth. Now, the way I organize the tasks in each step means that you can stop at any point and legitimately feel confident and proud of your online marketing approach, your digital strategy. The goal is not to get to the top by any means. Not every organization can support that. The goal is to get to the right place for the resources that you have in your unique context, okay? So if you're right here and you say, honestly, can't go ahead and do that next step in good faith, I don't have the time, resources, volunteers, money, budget, whatever, I'll say, congratulations, you are doing the best you can with what you have. Focus on doing those steps really well until you are in a different place to go ahead and move up. Maybe you're at the top. You're firing on all cylinders. Congratulations, you're doing it super well, okay? So that's our paradigm. Okay, a couple rules of the stack. You have to start at the bottom level, which we talked about already. To move up a level, you must have at least one of the following, okay? So you have to check one of these boxes. You, the pastor, you have to have time and interest. I think of my friend Nate, who's a pastor now, and we'll chat back and forth sometimes about, clipping little bits out of his sermons or, fixing up his church's Instagram page or whatever. He has interest in this stuff, and you guys probably do too because you're here. But he has a lot of tasks coming across his desk, and playing around in Canva or PowerPoint probably the best use of his time at this place. So that's why I say and. You have to have both time and interest. Okay. You could also have the perfect volunteer. So I think of Rick from Denver, who's a member at a congregation I work for, and he was the presidential photographer for George Bush. So I think he can take pictures of mornings with mommy, and it's going to turn out pretty well. He knows what he's doing. He's the perfect guy for the job. I think of Linda, who was at our vicar congregation, and she owned and operated and marketed her own bed and breakfast in Maine for many years. And so if we put her in charge of the capital campaign, she's going to do a really good job. Okay, they're the perfect volunteers. There's no question about it. Something I want you kind of to be aware of is the good enough volunteer. Good enough volunteer, especially when you're not paying somebody, you don't have a ton of leverage. When you get work that you're not 100% happy with, to talk about those different things. It can lead to some dicey interpersonal stuff. So make sure you have a really solid volunteer. They're not just good enough. Okay. Or you have money to pay somebody else to do it for you, to pay a professional. That's an option as well. Okay, so 3 boxes. You have to check one of them before you can move up. If you do, your organization can support more digital outreach. And if you do not, then your organization should focus on doing that level better until something changes. Okay, this is my disclaimer. I'm going to speak in absolutes, which I think will apply to 80% of scenarios. There will be fringe cases where what I'm saying doesn't necessarily hold up, or exceptions to different things, but we only have 50 minutes. So I'm just going to kind of dive in. You can email me if you think, your scenario is a little bit different. Let's start filling in the steps. So we have to start with our first step here. And that is a very clear mission, vision, and values as they relate to outreach. Okay. So you can read those questions. I don't have to read them to you. But in this level 1, you are looking to really identify the human nature of the person that you're trying to reach. Okay. So imagine, I'm working with a client and I ask them, these questions, or I'm looking for this information from them before we start work together. And they send back, our mission is to proclaim the gospel in word and sacraments to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay, that is great. I'm so happy. Let's kind of dig into that a little bit more. That's where we're going to go. Dig into it a little bit more. Are we in Cedarburg, or are we on the north side of Milwaukee? 2 very different places, right? Both could technically be Milwaukee, 2 very different places. If you think of Cedarburg, we're spending our outreach time and dollars on nice kind of suburban events that are family friendly. We're advertising on Facebook and all of the mom groups. There's a ton of those. We're doing email marketing. We have a really nice website, super clean, super polished. It's a very wealthy suburb. So we got to be aware that we're kind of on the cutting edge. I think of the year that I taught at Salem, which is 107th and Good Hope. Kind of picture that, very different than Cedarburg. And I started out the year making my pretty Canva newsletters. I would email those out to all my parents. And about about 10% of them would open it, and nobody would read the information inside. Oh, that's information. As soon as I started texting parents of my kids, learned that early on, I heard back immediately. We're chatting, we're getting stuff done, sharing information, they know what's up, we're texting. Okay, awesome. That's information about the human nature of the person that you're trying to reach. So this is very, very important, and it'll bleed into everything else that we do, really, truly. This is something that we'll return to a few times throughout this presentation. You don't have a system if it's not written down. So if it's all in your head, that's a theory, that's an idea, not a system. As soon as it's written down, it's clarified, then that's something we can work with, something we can start getting people kind of rallied around. You can share that with other people, people who might work for you, volunteer for you. So the answers to those questions have to be written down to check this step off. On your sheet, you'll notice that there are numbered stars there that match up with the slides. So that first one is about the buyer's journey. Notice that buyers is in quotes because we don't really have true buyers necessarily, but that's a term that's used in marketing a lot, buyer's journey. And it's 7 steps: unawareness, awareness, consideration, decision, purchase, retention, and advocacy. Okay, so that article that I wrote will kind of help you dig into some of the thoughts that might be going through your audience's mind in each one of those different stages. So it'll start kind of helping you to ask the right questions and get that good stuff down on paper. Okay, let's say our first step is done. Say you have all that written down, you're feeling solid about it, feeling like you understand how your target audience communicates, where they're at online, what they're looking for, what their needs are. Okay, great, we can kind of move up. Photography is next. So you have to ask yourself, do you have time and interest? Maybe you're a hobbyist photographer in your spare time. That'd be awesome. Do you have the perfect volunteer? Do you have a Rick from Denver in your congregation? Perhaps. Or do you have money to pay somebody a couple $100 on, like a gig site like Upwork or what have you? Okay. In the short term, you can hire somebody to take pictures for you and or have a volunteer do it. I created a shot list. That's the second resource on your sheet. Just a list of pictures that you'll want to grab of happy, smiling people with, good energy. We have pictures of your facilities. We have really nice pictures of worship and Bible study and maybe some of those events that you do on a more regular basis. Okay. And the nice thing about this step is you really only have to do it once every few years, maybe, because those pictures, that whole, Google Drive file of pictures are going to be used throughout the rest of the stack. And they're super duper nice, high quality professional pictures. You can use those over and over again. In the long term, regarding photography, you're going to want to have some sort of a system set up for getting pictures of kind of the smaller scale things that happen on a week-to-week basis. And so this could be, you set a reminder to go off on your phone. In iOS 18, you can schedule a text to yourself. You designate a photo person, somebody to be in charge of getting pictures, not as high of quality, just an iPhone snap of stuff that's going on, kind of on a smaller scale. Okay, so you have a system for that. That's photography. Google My Business is next. Now, this step, to be honest, takes about 30 minutes. So I think you can probably find the time and interest to knock out your Google My Business profile. This is what a Google My Business profile looks like. It is the little card that pops up when you Google a business with a physical location. This is also the profile that comes up when you search for some apps. It's got pictures, information about your business, Q&A, reviews, all that fun stuff, hours, phone number, etc. Okay. I wrote an article about what to do with your Google My Business profile. That's going to be resource 3. So I won't waste your time here, but this does lead us into a larger conversation about Google and search engine optimization, or SEO. Okay, SEO is basically somebody types in church near me with an IP address that's somewhere within your vicinity. You want to show up on that search result somewhere on the first page towards the top, ideally. Okay, and this gets really nerdy really fast. People make whole careers about being SEO professionals, so there's a lot we could get into, but I guess what I want you to remember is kind of the physical equivalent I like to talk about with SEO. It would be like, here, you have a church that's kind of built off the road a little ways. You can't see it from the street driving by, right? And you decide that you're not going to put up this. Right? Now, am I saying that if you would put up a sign, people would just walk in off the street into your church in droves and voila, silver bullet, it's awesome, it's done? Definitely not, obviously. But if you have no sign, then there's certainly no shot that anybody's gonna kind of trickle in that way. SEO is very similar. You're not just gonna have people tripping and falling onto your URL. Got to get the word out some way. Is it the silver bullet? Obviously, absolutely not. But it is something that you want to pay attention to for those couple few that are going to come in that way. Okay, your website is next. I went back and forth on this first one. Oh, yikes. Ideally, I would really love for this to not be your job. I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's going to take at least 4 times longer than you think it's going to take, and you're going to get tired of it. Not want to finish it and put up something that's below the level of what you had hoped. Unless you're super into web development, which is certainly possible. So ideally, it's not your job. Of course, there are scenarios in which, for budgetary reasons or whatever else, it does end up falling on your plate, which we'll talk about in a second. But ideally, it's not your responsibility. You could also have the perfect volunteer. You could have a web developer in your congregation or locally who wants to volunteer their time. That'd be awesome. Or you have money, which is most likely you have the budget for this, to hire this piece out. Okay, since that's the most likely, I'm going to walk you through the different options that you might see as you're looking to hire somebody to build your website. I'm looping the local agency and the high-end professional kind of into the same bucket. I'll kind of tell you how that's going to go. So you're going to pay a lot of money, and you're going to end up with a really nice website for sure. They know what they're doing. The problem, not necessarily problem, thing you want to be aware of with that is that expensive websites usually continue to be expensive. So if you want to create a landing page for soccer camp, or put up or take down your Easter announcement or your Christmas stuff, or make changes to your staff pictures or whatever, often those higher end people are going to kind of gatekeep the back end of your website. So you'll have to pay them to go ahead and do that task. Now, hey, you didn't have to do it. You had to pay them, but you didn't have to do it. So there is kind of a plus side there. But that can get expensive over time. So just be aware of that. The other side of the scale is paying a professional kind of on the lower end. So if if there's a super techie MLC student, throw them a couple $100 to get you up onto Squarespace or Wix or one of those like template based builders. Nothing wrong with that. You've got beautiful pictures, and that is going to cover over a variety of different things. And so consider doing that. Ideally, you find somebody right in the middle who builds on a platform that you have access to, but feels a little bit more custom than those kind of sterile template-y sites that you'll see kind of come from that low end. All right, no matter what you choose to do, the non-negotiables are this: you don't dread using it. The second you dread using the back end of your website is the second that your Easter stuff is still up in August. It just falls to the end of your to-do list. You don't want to do it, you're dreading it, and so it doesn't get done. So that's number one. Number two, it's written for a visitor first. That's the primary reason that you have a website in the first place, is to start to create that trust with somebody who maybe has never visited you before or is within the first couple weeks of visiting you for the first time. This means that you don't lead with an orange flashing download usher schedule button. But the first thing people see when they come on your website is, I'm new here, learn more, meet the pastor, etc. Lots of pictures. Hey, no problem. We've got this taken care of already. Early on when I was freelancing, I would give my clients like a 3-month heads up. Drop all your photos that you want me to use on your website, social media in this Google Drive, whatever. And then I'd get to the place, later on in the project where I'd actually need those pictures. Like, and it would be like pulling teeth, and I'd get like 5 or 6 kind of iPhone pictures from 2010 or whatever. And it's like, you're putting a lot of likely money into your website. You want to give it the energy that you've already put into it with those nice images. SEO, search engine optimization. No matter who you hire, make sure they know what they're talking about with SEO. Kind of push them on that. Somebody in a previous section asked, how do I know what questions to ask? It's a great point. I did write an article on that. It is not on your sheet, but it is in my archive. So go ahead and look that up. What questions to ask a person that you might be hiring to do your website regarding SEO. Finally, you need some way to capture the attention that your website is bringing your way. For most congregations, that's going to be via email. If you're in like some so maybe more urban or younger areas, you could replace this with text, like an SMS sign up. But for most WELS congregations, it's going to be email. And you're going to want to connect an incentive to this email sign up. That's called a lead magnet. Okay, so picture SEO and this email sign up working really nicely together. Somebody types in church near me. You have good SEO, so you're showing up towards the top of the page. They're clicking, they're browsing, it's written for a visitor, they're meeting a pastor, they're saying, totally, this looks interesting. There's an email sign up at the bottom, some sort of incentive, they plug it in, and now you've got their contact for forever, until they don't give you permission to use it anymore. I see your question, 1 second. This is super exciting. With the clients that I work with, I'll see a new sign up come in, and I'll, text the pastor, be like, do you know this guy? Were they just in church, or where did this person come from? And he'll text back like, no, I don't know them. This is so exciting. They must come from the website. Like, what do I do? So that doesn't happen a ton, but like a couple times a month, which isn't nothing. We'll get somebody through our email sign up on the website.
How do you incentivize that?
I love that. Great question. So if you've ever put your email in for like a 20% off coupon code on some sort of e-commerce site, it's basically what we're doing, but it's the church version of that. So your audience will kind of define this for you. Some examples, church out in Colorado, we would do a set of devotions for around the campfire. That's kind of like stereotyped, but you get the idea. Dinner time conversation starters for around the dinner table with your family of young kids. You wouldn't say it like that, but another idea would be, discussion questions for, this topic, if you're in an area that would support that. Maybe it's money of some variety, $5 off your soccer camp registration or whatever. Your audience will define that for you. 10 family-friendly things to do in Montana in the winter. You can get creative with that. Super fun. There's no one right answer. It depends on where you are. Okay, so ideally, your website is not your responsibility, but if it is, if it does end up being that way for any reason, there are 2 articles on your sheet about how to do it yourself in a way that makes sense and provides a result that's pretty decent. Okay, we were just talking about email. Email is the next step. This is a big shift in the stack. Up to this point, we've done kind of one-off projects. Okay, we get the pictures done. We get the Google My Business profile done. We get the website done. This is where it shifts to being an ongoing time commitment. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, is that something you can do right now? If not, hey, completely okay. I'm glad you're able to recognize that. If yes, you have to check these boxes that you have time and interest, or the perfect volunteer, or money to pay a professional. Okay, this is what I like to call my two-pronged email marketing approach, which is very catchy. You're going to send 2 emails a week. That is your email marketing approach. 2 emails a week. Not a ton, but it's really robust and it's really effective. One is going to be kind of in reach. This goes to your members or your super active people, your core people. The other one goes to every email address you've ever gotten your hands on. People who have come in through your email sign up on your website, prospects from different events that you've run in the past, your whole email list. Okay, your in-reach newsletter is just that. It's what you would normally picture as a church newsletter. You've got your requests for volunteers, your prayer list, announcements, asks in that. And then your other one, your outreach one, is some sort of a devotional content piece. And I leave that very open for a reason. You understand your audience and you understand what they would be most interested in. So, in suburbia with young families around a dinner table, it's conversation starters or 30 bedtime devotions or whatever. And then you send one each week. Podcast discussion questions, whatever. It just has to be original. You have to be the one writing it. Okay, this is what it looks like visually. Your weekly in-reach one, internal marketing, we got service focus. We got pictures of small group Bible study. We've got Livingstone Kids is this Sunday. We need people to bring snacks. We're doing church inside because it's gonna be cold this week. We're doing prayer list, short-term capital campaign, share the sermon. This is your in-reach. Outreach, it looks like this, obviously much shorter. Just a timely devotional thought. We call it the Monday Minute. That's Pastor Jeremy's weekly email that he sends out. And then there's one singular ask, call to action, that gets glued onto that. And in this case, it's come to toddler time, because that's their primary outreach event that they do. Okay, this gets sent to 80 people, and that gets sent to about 200 people. And they have roughly the same open rate. So for the math geeks in the room, what does that mean? 70% of 80 people, 70% of 200 people, those are not the same number. So that means that there are some people who are not active that are reading that week after week, opening that email. So awesome stuff. What this does also, this segmenting your list is what it's called. Segmenting your list gives you kind of a safe space to say whatever you need to say to those that particular group of people. So here we're talking about the same event, Live Nativity in Cedarburg, hypothetical event. On the InReach side, we say, hey, we still need more volunteers to help us direct traffic, direct parking. Can you help? Sure, go to sign up form. On the outreach email, if we were talking about that same event, we say, hey, we'll save a parking spot for you. Go to Facebook event, RSVP on the Facebook event. Okay, you're talking about the same thing, talking about it in 2 very different ways. And since you break up your list like that, it gives you the space to do that. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. People don't notice announcements, they notice consistency. So you think about a soccer camp or a VBS or some of these really, really large outreach initiatives that we typically try to do. Obviously, great stuff. But when you're talking about that, you're trying to make a big announcement. You're trying to make a big splash. As big of a splash, as big of an announcement as you can possibly make one time, or maybe one time per year. And when people are there, you want to give them the best experience that you possibly can and start to earn their trust that way. This looks at it from kind of a different angle. and says, instead of a big splash, we're just going to do a little drip each week. Takes way less time than planning a VBS or soccer camp. Little drip every week, drip of attention and a drip of trust instead of that big splash. So both are great. The human mind tends to prefer consistency. Also, not to wax like autobiographical, but this is what I do with my newsletter. I've been writing it for 2.5 years. Some of the best projects that I've ever done have been with people who have been on my newsletter for a year, 1.5 years, 2 years. By the time we start to talk, they get what I'm about, I get them, we're on the same page, they feel like they know me. And that same concept would apply with you as well. You know, maybe somebody sticks on that Monday minute for a minute, and then they show up and they feel like they know you. So trust, you're gaining trust. YouTube is next. When I say YouTube, I'm not talking about like YouTube short. Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Is it okay to break for vacation?
I would do anything in your power to not miss. Yeah. If this is something that I've actually recommended to a couple of my clients when some of them have started doing daily emails, which is really interesting. Spend about 3 to 6 months doing it, not sending any of it, to get in the habit, to see if it's sustainable for you. If you find out that it is, now you have a backlog to pull from. And if you find out that it's not, then you didn't launch something and you weren't able to deliver on it. So if at all possible, try not to miss, because it is a trust builder. Great question. Okay, YouTube is next. I'm not talking about like TikTok style YouTube shorts of like, have you ever wondered what baptism is? Smash that subscribe button to find out. Not anything yucky like that. We're just doing full-length sermons on YouTube in a nicely edited, professional way. So do you have time and interest to take this on? Do you have the perfect volunteer? Do you have money to pay someone to do it for you? If so, we can dive in. So choose your own adventure regarding live streaming. I have my own opinions about it. I think everybody does. Up to you whether or not you want to live stream. Our goal is just to have a nice video of the sermon of decent quality that we can take and put a nice intro outro on it. Some sort of a cutesy little animation piece, little music that fades in and out, just something professional. If you go onto Fiverr with 2 R's, you can grab a file like this for like $10. Send them your logo file and they'll whip something up for you. Once you have this video every week, you're going to share it on YouTube. Take that YouTube link, embed it on your website. You're going to throw it on social media. Can't put it on Instagram because it's too long of a video. Put it on Facebook if Facebook is still relevant for your context. Put the link in the email to share it. Upload as a podcast. I found out a few weeks ago, Spotify for creators is the easiest platform to use in the entire world. I wish I'd been using it for years. You literally just take that file that you've already made, put it up on YouTube, plug it into Spotify, it rips the audio, and it's up in like 3 seconds. A lot of people like using Spotify. So upload it as a podcast. And then that final bullet point is really important. Explicit directions to share. So it's important to remember, and I really want to make this clear too. We're not doing any of this just for digital's sake. We're not doing digital for digital's sake. We're doing digital because humans use digital platforms. We're doing it for the people. And so this is a great source of just an easy way to give to your people, to share the gospel with their friends, people in their life, to say, hey, have you ever had a conversation with your friend and you show up on Sunday and, that's what we're talking about. Now you have something that you can text to them to try to share that hope, share that comfort in kind of a different way. So YouTube, that's YouTube. Yeah.
You mentioned the live stream, you also mentioned mostly edited full sermons. We recommend that you flip the live stream, a sermon from the live stream, standalone, standing.
Sure, totally. Good question. If you're already live streaming, just clip it out of the live stream. Super easy. If you're not, or if your church is not doing that for one reason or another, then some sort of a person to film it or set up that's super easy to, just click a button, remote or whatever, starts recording. But if you're already live streaming, totally, that's great. Good question. Social media is next. Maybe you thought this whole presentation was going to be about social media. Notice how far social media is up the stack, and how really truly little it matters. And I believe that with my whole heart. It's a huge time suck, unfortunately. That's why it really should not be the pastor's responsibility. Huge responsibility, and it is such a grind. And so really take some time to consider if diving into social media is something that you can do well before you do it. And if not, all good. It's better for somebody to not be able to find you on Instagram than to find something and you haven't posted for 8 months and it's a little scary. So really think about that. If you post something on social media, there's between a 1.5% and 3% chance that someone who follows you will see it. It's just super discouraging. You think about all the time that you can drain into this stuff. And that's why I put it up so high. If you look at email marketing, numbers on email, or one-to-one sharing of YouTube or podcasts, email marketing, my clients are usually between a 60 and an 80% open rate on their emails. So like, if you think about where you're going to allocate your time, I'd rather you put it into email, growing your email list, than into trying to eke out attention on social, because it's just so noisy. Now, that being said, I do believe social media is important for primarily one reason, and that is people who already know about you or are vaguely familiar with you are going to look you up. They're going to look you up on social media. Maybe you've done this with a restaurant or a coffee shop or whatever. You see it along the road or you find it on Google Maps and you go and you look at their Instagram page to kind of start to vet them. That happens a lot with churches as well. So it's important that you look alive. And I'm going to just show you better than looking at a box of text. Okay, so I'm going to rewind. Watch that first box here on your left. That's a nicely little animated thing. Sermon, music fades in, goes into the sermon at the end, music fades out. There's another logo thing that's animated. So on Monday, that's what I put up on Facebook, was the full length sermon. Okay, which I already did because I was putting it on YouTube and the podcast anyway. Tuesday, I grabbed a quote out of his Monday Minute weekly email devotion, best quote, plopped it into this template. I use the same template every week. I just change up the colors, threw that up there. Wednesday, there was a Bible and Brew event that they do, and we have a system for getting pictures of that. The system is I text the pastor when I know what's going on, and I say, can you text me a picture of what's going on right now? And he texts that picture over to me. I threw that up on Wednesday. Thursday, I clipped out a little piece of his sermon. He's got kind of like a nice piece that can be plucked out without losing any context, kind of like a TED Talky sort of a piece of the sermon. Pulled that out, threw some captions on it. And then Saturday, pictures of the small group Bible study. Okay, again, same system. I know when small group Bible studies going on, I text him or schedule a text to ask for a picture. This really did not take that long. The thing that took the longest was the video clip, just because I had to throw captions on it, but you wouldn't even really need to do this. And that's almost daily posts on social media. Now, can I tell you something funny? That Wednesday and Saturday, those pictures of those happy, engaged people, outperformed the rest of these posts by a factor of 8. They did way better. And when I get to the end of a quarter and I look at everything I put up on their social media, it's always that way, without fail. The pictures of real people doing real stuff at the church always do the best by far. And obviously our goal isn't to do numbers on social media anyway, but it is encouraging when you can get some likes on something.
Why is that? People sharing it, seeing it, and saying, "Oh, it's there."
Yeah, liking it, loving it, commenting, looks like a great time, that sort of thing. They're in kind of a suburb of Denver, and so Facebook is still very much a presence in kind of that suburb region. People are on there all day, every day. So they see their friends or they see their church family and they throw it a like. Okay. Let's talk about the final step, which is paid advertisements. Now this is really only in place to give events that you're doing a little extra boost. This isn't something you have to worry about most of the time. So think about that when you ask if you have time and interest. Perfect volunteer. Maybe you have somebody who works in advertising in your congregation. That's pretty common. Or money to pay someone to do it for you. There are kind of three types of ads that I like to run for events. One would be on Google, which has 2 different branches. Google search. So if somebody searches for fun kids activities, summer 2025 in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, which is like, I don't know how many people are searching that, but if people search for something along those lines that I would want our event to show up for, you can pay for search ads. There is a Google grant for nonprofits that gets you $120,000 a year in free Google search ads. And so if you are putting on events that make sense that people would be looking for, look into using that grant. YouTube, Google owns YouTube, so YouTube falls under the Google branch. If you want to throw up some YouTube videos, that's those 5-second skippable ads that I'm sure you've seen before. My best advice that I can offer is just to do a selfie style, super casual invite yourself or the person who's running the event, somebody engaging, somebody kind of high energy. Hey, I'm so-and-so, we're here, we're doing this, click to get more info or whatever. Now, the key with that, as you can imagine, is to try to capture people's attention in those 5 seconds before they skip. And the best way that I found to do that is to drop your location sometime in those first 5 seconds. So if you say, hey, I'm Pastor so-and-so, we're in the southeastern corner of Wichita, Kansas, and this Saturday we're doing live nativity or whatever. Human nature kind of goes, oh, I live in the southeastern corner of Wichita, Kansas. You know, I might give this a couple extra seconds to hear what this guy's talking about. So that's my best advice for YouTube. Meta. So Meta owns Facebook and Instagram. That's the parent company for those two. I don't really like doing Meta ads. I feel like they take your money and they run with it. And I've not seen a ton of results come from that. But one exception to that is boosted Facebook events. So if you can get your event up onto Facebook as a Facebook event, throw like $50 behind it and boost it. I've seen that work pretty well. The other option is out of home. Mailers are not out of the question. I feel like mailers got kind of a bad rap. They are super expensive, but I've seen mailers work if they're really good mailers. What makes a really good mailer, you may ask? First of all, they are advertising an event that the community really wants. You know, not just doing soccer camp because that's the cool thing to do, but doing soccer camp because your community wants a soccer camp. That's the first piece, and you're gonna understand that because you already did this. The second piece is to have some sort of a call to action on the mailer. So maybe it's a QR code that says scan for $5 off your soccer camp registration, or some other call to action to entice somebody to take that next step if they're interested, not just put it on kind of the coffee table and forget about it. Billboards are another option, especially in rural areas. Billboards work pretty well and aren't super expensive. And traffic signs. This is a new one for me. But picture those big orange traffic signs that you'd see if there was like an accident on the road. You can rent those for like a couple $100. That just happened with Livingstone. They're doing a live nativity on their property. They haven't built a church yet. Super high traffic road. Rented a traffic sign. It was the best couple $100 that we spent to promote that event. So, I already kind of talked about this, but ads are, you're paying for attention. That's what an ad is, paying for attention. So you want to have some sort of way to capture the attention that you're paying for, ideally with an email sign up. Now, here's something fun you can do. Tried this out for the live nativity that I was just talking about. We funnel all of our ads to the landing page for live nativity. Hey, live nativity. Hey, here's pictures from last year. Hey, it's gonna be a great time. Hey, it's free. Hey, we'll have hot chocolate, all this fun stuff. And then at the bottom, I put something that said, we all tend to forget about stuff like this. I do it, you do it, it falls off the radar, whatever. Sign up for, there's a drop down. You could choose sign up for a day of email reminder, one-time email reminder, or sign up for a one-time email reminder and weekly devotions. Everybody chose yes. I thought everybody was just going to choose the one-time email. Everybody chose the one-time email with the weekly devotions. So now all of that money we spent on that ad has been funneled into a contact that you never lose. You always have that in progress to start dripping out that trust building content. Okay, we made it. We did it. Filled in all of the boxes. So take a second to kind of take that all in. I will make 2 comments. First, you can and should, if applicable, stop at any point along this stack, really truly. If you cannot check one of those boxes, stay where you are at. You can really truly say you are doing an awesome job using the internet to the best of its ability at any step that you find yourself on. So don't feel bad about that. Work on that step until you're in a different place. You can think about moving up. The other point I want to make is just a bit of commentary. I think often when some clients will come to me, mentally they have this completely flipped upside down. And they kind of have it in their minds, and this isn't their fault, just a misconception. If I put enough money into paid ads, if I just post the right stuff on social media, like this viral, interesting content, if I post enough, then we'll get all these people coming in, and then we'll get the young people and whatever. You have to have this before anything else, obviously. And you have to have this to support any of the effort that you do up there. Okay, it's a support. And that's why these are in the order that they're in. So just be aware of that tendency to think, what if I could just hack this system, put enough money into paid ads that it fixes my website, and all of that fun stuff falls out from there. I tried to make this as concrete as possible with, do this, then do this, then do this. But I could totally understand feeling overwhelmed at this point. My encouragement would just be to start here, because that's what you kind of have to do anyway. Then just ask yourself those 3 questions. Do I have time and interest? Do I have perfect volunteer? Do I have budget to pay someone else? And then work your way up step by step. On your handout, there are a couple extra things on there. There's a webinar about the Google grant, if you want to dive into that. There's a timeline and checklist for promoting events. And then I'll highlight the free training program that I'm doing this spring. This will teach anyone with a relatively decent technical skill to manage a church's digital presence in about 5 hours a week. So to take care of email, YouTube, social media, and paid ads in roughly 5 hours a week. Kind of time-saving efficiencies, tips, my whole process. And I'm not really pitching that to you. I'm more so pitching that to your wives What I'm going to do after that program is over is take people who have finished it, who are interested, and kind of farm them out to clients that I work with to do this work on an ongoing basis. Because I can only take on so many of those before I have no time left. And so if you think they would be interested in that, it's free. They're welcome to jump in on that. Just shoot me an email. Win my favorite book. You sign up for my email newsletter with that QR code. You'll be entered to win one of 10 copies of Growth Hacker Marketing by Ryan Holiday, which has a super yucky name, Growth Hacker Marketing. That sounds kind of icky, but it's a really good book, I promise. Full of a lot of kind of non-traditional creative ideas for promotion. So I've annotated all of them, highlighted my favorite parts. Win my favorite book. If you received value, go ahead and sign up for my email newsletter every Friday. Quick tip, trick, hack for marketing your organizations online. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for spending some time with me. Feel free to ask me some questions afterwards. I know we're kind of on a time crunch, but shoot me an email or a text. We'll chat soon. Thank you, guys.